Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to Planet Dirt. My name is Alicia and today we are tackling a project that I've been putting off because I got 2 of these rolly composting bins and my husband put together this first one and he said it was a giant pain in the butt. So I haven't been wanting to actually put together the second one even though I need to. So I have instructions and a screwdriver and a dream and we're gonna go see if we can get the second one put together. Alrighty you guys, I am over in the shade underneath the awning and this is the lovely box. So I have not actually looked at any of these pieces yet. I did watch my husband put together the first one and honestly it looked a little difficult. So we're gonna see if I can manage this without asking for some help. The instructions are pretty much what you would expect out of something like this. Alrighty, so I am going over the instructions and they're not that clear, you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've seen better instructions in my life. There is also not a tools list that you need, but I know that there are screws in there, so I grabbed a screwdriver. I'm gonna pull everything out of here and make sure I have everything, I don't have anything missing, and then we'll get started. It does say that we're gonna start with the stand, so hopefully that'll be the easy part and then we can count it as a win and then we'll move on to the more difficult parts. Alright, so I will put exactly which compost bin this is up in the corner and down below. I just want to add a disclaimer really quick that this box did not ship like this. It looks pretty beat up, but that didn't happen in shipping. I accidentally left this box out here during the hailstorm that we had a couple days ago. So it's pretty beat up. The instructions are pretty beat up, but they're still legible, so it'll be fine. Everything in here is plastic or wrapped in plastic, and so it's gonna be just fine. But the box looks a little beat up, and I thought I'd mention that this is not a slight on the company at all. This was 100% user error. Alrighty, just did a quick check and it looks like all of the pieces are included, so we're gonna get started. It does say to start with those ones first and make the actual stand that this rests on, so we're gonna start over there and work our way down. I'm actually gonna read these instructions, you guys, and I'm gonna follow them to the best of my ability. Wish me luck. Alright, I figured out the initial steps to get this thing going. So it's a little awkward because you're making something that is 3D. Like, it's not just making a stand that goes like this. You're making something that goes towards you and then across and out. And so it looks a little awkward. It feels a little awkward when you're assembling it. But we're gonna get this done. Alright, I see why they make you start with that one because it's pretty darn easy. It's a little awkward, but it's pretty easy. So next up, we're gonna do the flaps that open for each container. There are 2 per container so that they have 2 sides that you can work with. So you can fill up one first and fill up the second one. And then, I don't know how you're supposed to track how long each one has done, but I don't know, we'll figure it out. This is probably why it gets a little bit awkward because you just did the base and now you're doing like the inside of the lid, which isn't even kind of close to it, but let's go. Alrighty, so we are working on attaching the latches to each one of. So we are working on attaching the little doors that open and close for each side, and my goodness, there are a lot of different screws in here, and nothing's labeled, you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I don't really know if this is supposed to be the small one or the big one. Let's look at the item list and see if I can figure it out. All right, whichever engineering intern made these instructions, I feel bad for you, sir or madam, because these are just really, really sad. So there's a list right here of everything that should be in this bag, and I just laid these out. There's only supposed to be 2 of these smaller ones, small and medium, and this one's the medium one that goes on the door flap, and then these are the large ones, and then these are the little small ones. So I guess if you use your brain, then you can figure it out. But I like things to be idiot proof, and this one is certainly not. I suppose I can be a good sport and use my brain, you guys. I suppose, just this once. So I do appreciate, though, that they tell you on the instructions where the E faces. So there is an E. I don't know if you can even see it. There's an E right here. It's shiny on the inside of this. And the little latch needs to face that side so that it actually matches what it says it does. So that it actually matches what it says it is when it's open and closed. So that's always nice. Another little E. All right, we're on to the next step, which is inserting this center divider and attaching the outer spinner to it. So a little backstory of why we got the spinners, because I used to have just the stationary black plastic compost bins, and they honestly just never made compost.
So this disc right here is actually the middle of the compost bin. It has 2 sides so that you can fill up one side, and while that side is composting, you can be filling up the other side. So I got to this point and I realized very quickly why my husband was getting frustrated with this, because in the instructions it tells you that you should be able to just wrap this around the middle disc and screw it in once you have the panels locked together. The panels don't actually lock together. You're relying on the screws to do that. And so if you don't put in the initial screw just temporarily to hold it into place, it's gonna be a pain in the butt because these don't actually snap together in any fashion. You're relying on the screws to hold them together. So that's what I ended up doing. I screwed in the very first hole right here, you can see temporarily. And then when I got to the end, I ended up having to unscrew just that one. And it kind of comes apart so that I can fold those final pieces together and then do the final screws. When I was going through here, I actually screwed in temporarily the end pieces as well, because when I was sliding these together, they didn't actually clip in, and so I had to secure the edges and then go to the middle. And so it kind of is very awkward to put together. So I can't even fault my husband for being a little frustrated throughout this process.
Alrighty, so these doors right here are held on. See, there's the door that we put the little handle on, little lock on earlier. And these are supposed to go inside like this on either side and hold it tight. It's not exactly going in very easily. I'm not gonna lie.
So I'm just gonna level with you guys. I went and got my husband and I made him push these in all the way because I tried both sides and I could not get them to go in all the way. It just requires a little bit of elbow grease, and like I said, it's kind of awkward. It's You have to reach inside like through the side panels, and so it's hard to get a good angle in there, and it's just a very snug fit. The plastic has a lot of little pieces of debris on it, which make it hard to fit snugly on the inside. But I was able to get it in, and I was able to put the rest of it together before my husband even had to get in here, because you can access this through the open flaps. So it wasn't a huge deal. It was just kind of a pain while it was going in. So next up, we are installing the rod that goes through the center. This is the rod that has the little blades that actually help turn the compost. So these blades attach to the rod on either side of this center divider so that the compost has something breaking it up while you're turning it and it's not just one big blob that's moving along. So this was actually super easy. It slides together relatively quickly. And there's one single screw that attaches this blade to keep it relatively stable on the inside and keep it from turning all on its own. So it does attach to the rod, it doesn't spin freely from the rod, and this screw was not that snug. So I think that it was meant to have a little bit of play inside the container, but not so much that it's going to free spin on its own.
Alrighty, you guys, it is starting to look like a compost bin. So what I had to do is this one in the instructions, it has this nice little illustration where it's all clip, 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 where it's supposed to like clip in. But I couldn't get this part together without screwing in the outer edges. And so I undid one of those screws and I screwed in one side. I unscrewed one of the screws so that I could get it on just that piece. And then I'm going to go one by one and undo this and then secure it in place where it's actually supposed to be. So it seems a little bit silly to screw these in part of the way and then end up unscrewing them just so that I can redo it. But honestly, I don't know if I could have gotten all those slats around that middle piece without screwing in the edges just a little bit. I didn't screw them in all the way, I just did a little bit. Alrighty, y'all. Let's do a little recap. So this thing is put together and it spins and it's lovely and yay! It opens. The door's open. You look inside. There's the little fan thingy is inside. It's gonna work, right? This whole experience was probably like a 5 out of 10 in assembling things. All the parts were there, which automatically gives it a 5. I do already have one of these, so it's a little bit like it's cheating because I got to see my husband put it together before I tried it. However, this whole experience kind of reminded me of when you're moving and you have this really awkward, big shaped piece of furniture that you have to move up and down stairs. And it's like, is it heavy? Not really. It's not really heavy. Is it really that hard? No, it's not hard to move, but it's really awkward. This entire process was so incredibly awkward, and the instructions left a lot to be desired. All it has is pictures in it. There are some cute little click, click, click. So it cracks me up because in these instructions, the one thing that is like incredibly, incredibly easy and should be idiot proof is how to turn the knob to open and close the little doors for each side. And on that part, you guys, it tells you that you have to turn it 90 degrees and that you'll hear a little click sound. But in all of the other parts where it was actually kind of difficult and not intuitive at all how to put this thing together, there's no clicking, there's no little things telling you how tight you have to move it or how far you have to move it or whatever. And so I don't know if they just did a lot of assuming or they think we're smarter than we are. So, like I said, this is the second rolling compost bin that we now have. We already have one, we've been using it. I have filled up probably half of it already with garden waste, with grass clippings, with dead leaves, that kind of stuff. It's got a good mixture of stuff in it so far, and my hope is that by having 4 separate compartments now, I'm going to be able to divide things pretty evenly, and hopefully that's going to give me a better compost. I also did cheat a little bit, and I got myself a mill food recycler. I shouldn't say I got it myself. My husband gifted me a mill food recycler for Mother's Day this year, and I absolutely love it. And I already filled it up one time, and I was able to dump that in the compost as well. And so I think we're actually going to be able to make real compost with these things, which is super exciting. Putting these together, not fun, not a good time, you guys. These things are still not in here correctly. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I'm gonna go make my husband take a look at it and see what he did so that hopefully we can figure that part out. But honestly, these things are pretty well put together, and the other one is doing wonderfully already. All right, so a little bit of background about why we chose these ones in particular. We used to have those square compost bins that they just sit on top of your lawn or mulch or whatever. They don't have a bottom. And the idea with those is that you don't really actually turn them so much as you scoop out the bottom part. There's a little door on the bottom. You scoop out the bottom part, you take that and you put it on top, and that's the turning process. So the problem with that is the plastic was really cheap on those, and it broke down after like maybe 2 seasons, and it is really dry here. All the moisture would just drain right out of those, and it had so many venting holes in it throughout the entire structure that it just dried out super quick. We tried watering it for a bit, but honestly, all the water just kind of fell through it. And so everything in there, it just never actually composted. It was too dry. So what we are hoping is that these things are enclosed, right? And so we're gonna be able to control the moisture level in these a lot easier in our climate. I think the other ones are just made for wetter climates, and it just didn't work for our area. So everything that was in it just kind of stayed dry mulch. It never actually composted. So hopefully these are going to work better. We'll be able to actually create some compost that I can use in my garden, and we'll actually have a place to put all of the garden scraps. I've already been pruning my tomatoes like crazy. I'm gonna stay on top of it this year, hopefully, and it's really convenient to have these right next to the garden and be able to just toss stuff in there. Alrighty, everyone. I hope today's video was helpful. I hope it was at least entertaining watching me on the struggle bus work my way through this issue, and hopefully in 6 months or so I'll have some actual compost for my garden. If you do have any tips or tricks for composting, please leave them in the description. I am all ears. I have never successfully made compost unless you count putting it in a food mill, and I'm not sure that I count that. So hopefully this is going to help out a lot in that area. Thank you so much for coming along with me today, and I hope I see you next time. Bye.